Welcome to Big Ideas Made Simple. I'm Jess Weber, and this show exists for the person who has never once struggled to generate an idea, but has absolutely struggled to figure out what to do with all of the ideas that you actually have. So, in every episode, I connect one big idea to one practical shift so you can stop drowning in potential and start moving with purpose. Today's episode is a little bit of a deviation from the arc that I've been going on the last few episodes, but I think it's important. So here is where I want to talk about side quests, and not as distractions to your main vision, your main goal, but as a strategy to help keep that main thing possible and moving forward. So this all starts with the question. And that is when you hit a wall, and I don't mean like full burnout, but like that's a specific state where you are still capable, but the current path is like dry and harder to move along. What do you do? Most people have two options, and they know that. Option one is keep pushing on the thing and draining yourself, hoping that the momentum will eventually show up. The second option is avoid the thing entirely and maybe rot a little on the couch in avoidance, which, if you've ever done that, you know it's somewhat restful, but also deeply unsatisfying at the same time. Neither of those works really well, though. And so last week, I did something a little bit different. I was carrying a lot. I had just been planning for a 5-hour intensive for I Love Coaching, which included crafting all of the curriculum, writing the workbook, etc. And I hit a wall. Not the kind that like stopped me cold, but it was where the engine was still running and I didn't feel like I had anything else that I could give mentally. Like the capacity felt tapped out. And clinically, the language for that is called executive dysfunction in a singular pathway. So it's not that my brain was broken and it wasn't fully checked out. It was just telling me that my particular input to output ratio was no longer working and it needed a different lane. So I did something that felt counterintuitive in the moment, but now in retrospect is quite obvious. So I'm in a group chat with two of my best friends, one of which who I've mentioned before, Julia, who's a growth strategist, and another who is an incredible coach named Trish. And we were talking about our states of being and everything and how we handle being tapped out when we're on that main quest line, that main pathway. And so we started having this conversation about side quests, not as escape hatches, but as deliberate, intentional moves to help with refueling without losing all of your momentum on the main project. And it was funny because that conversation gave me something that I wasn't looking for or expecting. It gave me permission not to stop working because that wasn't a choice, but it was permission to work a little bit differently. And so I got off that text thread and decided to build something completely different. I built what I would call the personal brand repository. It's 49 tabs with AI prompts for every major piece of a brand or business that somebody might be building. It came from this Threads post that I happened to see while, intentionally trying to connect with people on Threads. But I designed it in such a way that myself or anybody else could hand this document to an AI tool or a team member, and that person or that tool would immediately know everything that it needs to know about you in the space of that specific tab, that specific area of the business. And so when I finished building this and started working on my own version, I realized that there's probably other people that need it too. I'm not the only one building a brand or an identity and using AI. So if that's something that sounds valuable to you, I would love to give it to you. And it's brand.bigideasmadesimple.com and you can grab it for free. But what's funny to me is not the fact that I spent a couple hours building this massive document and then the ability to share it with others. Julia got off the same text thread and built something else just the way that I built that brand repository. And I'll tell you about it in a minute because it's so good. But when I came back to the I Love Coaching work that I had been working on in that intensive, I came back with more capacity than I left with. More energy, a clearer head, and enthusiasm to show up to that 5-hour call, which was something that I was worried I wouldn't have capacity for 24 hours prior. And what I'm recognizing is that that's not a coincidence. It's my nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do with the right inputs. And so that's what I wanted to spend a little bit of time on this episode with you today on is understanding what actually happens when you hit the wall. Because I think it's honestly as misdiagnosed as we were talking about ourselves in previous episodes, or the problem itself is misdiagnosed. So think about this scientifically, your brain runs on dopamine. It's not like pop psychology or feel good. I mean, it truly is neurologically a chemical response for motivation and focus and drive and how we initiate and complete different things. So, when you are in some sort of sustained effort or focus on a singular project for an extended period of time, especially if it's not producing a visible output or positive feedback immediately, your dopamine loop starts to lag, starts to go quiet. And that's not anything wrong with you or your brain, that is biology. And so the problem is that a lot of productivity advice tells you to push through, use the willpower, stay disciplined, build the habit. And for some, especially neurotypical brains, in some seasons, that might work really well for them. But for the person who operates in 47 tabs, running multiple threads and generating ideas faster than they can execute them, that push through strategy is not just ineffective. It's truly counterproductive because you are trying to force an output for a system that is actively telling you that it needs something different. And so the harder you push, the more the system digs in. And what your brain really needs in that moment is a win, like a visible, completable, real win. Something where you can go from 0 to done in a contained amount of time. So you get that loop to close and it gives you that dopamine that you're seeking. And so this is what a side quest provides. It's not rest in a passive tense, it's generative rest. So you're still building, you're making, you're moving, you're doing. It's just a different lane where the road is clear and that feedback is going to be more immediate for you. Alex Soon-Jung Kim Pang wrote a book called Rest that is actually sitting at the top of my TBR, my to be read list, specifically because of this conversation and what happened in the last week. But the book's argument is that most people who are productive historically didn't succeed by grinding and working more hours. They succeeded by treating what looked like non-working as part of their output strategy. So they were deliberate with their breaks or walks or hobbies or creative detours. And they were not leveraged as rewards for finishing, but they were part of getting the work done. And I think that is the credible thing from this that my side quest last week is a perfect example of. Julia's side quest is a perfect example of. And I think more people need permission to do in the world that we live in today. So adjacency is everything. It's not abandoning your core mission or your core quest. It's giving your brain a different door in the same building. And so when you walk back in through the front door, you get to come back with a full tank. And that brand repository that I built serves this exact audience that I'm already serving. So it helps directly connect to a larger body of work that I have at Big Ideas Made Simple and Your Next Right Move coaching. It wasn't on the project list and it wasn't scheduled. It wasn't even part of the plan, but it came out of a couple-hour window where I needed to move my energy differently. And it turned into something that real people can use today. So it helps people strategically organize themselves so they can make their next right move. And that's proof of concept, y'all. Now, I told you I would tell you what Julia built as her side quest as well, because it's so cool. She took that same conversation that we were in same permission structure, same idea about productivity detours, and she went a completely different direction than I did. She built an app, a tool called Mission Detour. And the concept is super simple. You put in your current main quest, whatever you're working towards goal wise right now, and a little bit of detail about yourself, not much, but it generates relevant, relatable side quests for you. One that matches to who you are, what you're trying to build, your capacity. So when you hit that wall and your brain is screaming for something different, instead of staring into the void trying to figure out what to do next, you can get ideas generated by missiondetour.com. So she's got a free to start paid tier if you want more from it, but it's so cool. And so when Trish and I got back together and we started sharing what we had built, I just chuckled because, we had this small conversation that just led to something bigger. It gave us both that permission, and then we each took that permission independently, did our own thing, and came back with real projects, real things that we had made. And so I mentioned Julia and Trish because I truly believe this is what the right people in your corner can do for you. Not be cheerleaders, although that does matter, but it's those kind of conversations that unlock something that was probably already in you, but you just needed to give it enough room to become something real. And if you don't have anybody in your world like that, it's worth paying attention to. Because a side quest is powerful on its own, but a side quest born from conversations with people who genuinely understand you and see your capacity and what you're building is an entirely different thing. And if you need somebody like that, let me know because I am happy to start that conversation with you. Now, as always with every episode, I give you one thing, but before I start that, I want to help you with a framework for deciding what you're thinking about making your side quest and whether or not it's just avoidance wearing productivity clothing or something that is relevant for you. Because I'm going to tell you right now, as somebody who does this regularly, your brain will absolutely try to convince you that those two things are the same, and they are not. The difference matters a lot because one thing, the side quest that's appropriate, will refuel you, and the other will just delay the drain. So here's the 3 questions that I want to give you, and I'll walk through them a little bit slowly just because I think that this section in my podcast sometimes gets compressed because I'm so excited or because people recognize the idea, but they don't know what to do with it. So question number 1, I need you to ask yourself, is this generative? Meaning, does it produce something? It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be polished or perfect. It doesn't even have to be on your main quest roadmap. But at the end of the time that you spend on a side quest, is there something new that didn't exist before? A side quest makes something. Avoidance consumes things. That is the hard line that you have to draw for yourself. And again, this is where people tend to get a little bit fuzzy. Researching is not automatically generative. Reading articles about the thing you want to build is not a side quest. Watching 3 hours of YouTube tutorials on a skill you might use someday is not a side quest. Those are consumption dressed up in the clothes of preparation. Generative means that something is made. It's a draft, a tool, a framework written down, a conversation that produces a clear decision, or an outreach message that you actually sent. Something moved from your brain into the world in a form. And if you can't point to that thing, you are probably living in avoidance. So when you can decide and determine question 1, is it generative? The second question that you have to ask yourself, is it adjacent? So adjacent means that it's living inside the same ecosystem as your main quest, even if it's not the thread of the main quest itself. So the repository that I built for Big Ideas Made Simple is adjacent because it serves my audience. It even serves the audience at I Love Coaching, and it serves me. So it reflects the same values across all of the things that I am working on and in. And it is not a random pivot just because I read something on Threads that's completely unrelated. So it's a side door in the same building. And I'll also point out here, when I say adjacent, it is not identical. So it means that there is a clear thread connecting the side quest back to the main thing you're already building. It is not the same thing. So if you have to work to explain that connection piece, it's probably not adjacent. If the connection is obvious in the moment you say it out loud, then you're in the right space. And this question about whether or not it's adjacent also helps you catch the side quests that probably feel really productive, but are really new main quests in disguise. So if you find yourself 3 weeks into a side quest with a full business brand, new identity, something like that, you didn't take a side quest, you started over. And that's a completely different conversation. So when you can ask yourself, does it make something? Is it connected to the main quest, but not part of the main quest and not a new main quest? Then the third thing you have to clarify with yourself before you begin is this time bound? Because side quests, they have a natural end. You build the thing, you ship it, you come back. It's not open ended. It's not a new season. It is a contained excursion with a return ticket already in your pocket. This is like getting off the cruise ship and knowing that you have 4 hours on this tour and you have to be back before the ship leaves. The question that separates the productive detour from the pattern of perpetual new beginnings is that a lot of high capacity people get trapped in it. Starting new things feels good. The dopamine hit at the beginning of a new project is real, it's significant. And if you're not careful, you're going to keep chasing the hit that starting new things gives you rather than the finishing that actually matters. So, intentional side questing is a bounded scope. And when you finish making the thing that is adjacent, the side quest is over and you can come back to the main thing. The main quest will be sitting there waiting for you, ready to be picked back up. So, if you can answer yes to all 3 questions, you're not avoiding, you are refueling yourself with purpose. And that is a wildly different thing, even if it looks super similar to the other on the outside. So, again, I always have action items and I've usually got a book for you. The book that I was talking about, again, by Alex Sujung Kim Pang, is Rest. And full transparency, it's actually at the top of the TBR, the reading list. It is not off it yet. But I'm naming it here because the central argument is so poignant to this conversation. And it is that serious, sustained output requires deliberate rest built in to your strategy for completion as a non-negotiable. It's not a treat that you earn only after you finish. You don't celebrate with rest. You intentionally leverage it as a tool. And I think that's why it was such an attractive book for me, is because it lands intellectually before I even read the whole thing. And so that's how I think the best books often find me, is not always because I'm seeking them out, but because something that I've been living made that idea click, and that's how it got moved up to the top of the list. So I'll make sure the link is in the show notes. And if you're somebody who's already read it, let me know if you think that it lands the way that I'm hoping it will. But enough about that. Here is what I want you to do in the next week. Name a side quest, not Netflix, not the doom scrolling, like a real side quest. And I want you to run it through all 3 of those filtering questions. Is it generative? So is it going to produce something real when it's done? Is it adjacent? And does it live in the same ecosystem of the work I'm already doing? And is it time bound? Do you have a return ticket in your pocket? If it passes all 3, go. Give yourself the full permission to go on the side quest. Set aside the main quest for a window of time, build the thing, and then come back. And if you're sitting there and you can't genuinely think of a side quest for yourself, go use Julia's tool, missiondetour.com. Put in your main quest and let it come up with some ideas for you. Julia built it for exactly this moment, and it's free to start. But one more thing before I let you go on this episode. Do me a favor and tell someone. Not because you need accountability in the traditional sense, but because the conversation itself might be the thing that gives you the permission. It was for me. Julia and Trish and I talked about the power of side quests, and that's what unlocked the personal brand repository that had been sitting in screenshots from threads on my camera roll. Your people do not just cheer for you. The right ones hand you permission that you might not even know you need. And they are the ones that help you get the thing rolling. If you need permission, come find me. I'm the Jess Weber on all socials, and I am here to help because that's the gist of this episode. Side quests are not the opposite of focus work. For a brain that carries a lot, they are a mechanism that makes focused work sustainable over the long haul. You do not have to white knuckle every hard season in your business or your life. You just have to learn how to recognize that the current path has gone dry and give yourself a smarter option than pushing harder or checking out entirely. So, do me the favor, go build something small and come back better, come back stronger. I'll see you next Monday. And as always, if this one landed, come find me at bigideasmadesimple.com. That's where everything I'm building is taking shape and where you can connect with me directly. If you know somebody who is white knuckling a season of their life right now and needs a smarter option than pushing through, do me a favor and share this episode with them. The right idea at the right time can change everything. Thanks for listening.